Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Solo 69, and I want to talk about something real quick based around childhood issues in biblical terms. And I'm going to speak about this ebonically. I'm going to speak about it as if it's just an average story. So I do not want you to take this personal to a degree of facts versus fiction. I would rather you look at it as a descriptive story that'll help you look beneath the veil of something else. And other people could have probably thought about this situation or even talked about this situation because I don't know. I can't speak on that. But what I can say is that I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's thought like this, So here it is, The terms about the Messiah, Jesus, and especially when it comes down to the Bible and the other books that have been scattered are, just removed or however you want to put it. It's hard to say you can believe in a book that decided how to, be placed together in order to manipulate the community that it's given to. But within the manipulation, just like movies, just like other things, they have to state facts. How they scramble those facts is we're left as, the inspectors to that, to figure out the truth behind the veils of situations. And sometimes, when you're looking, especially with a pure heart, with a pondering mind, God says, ponder on my word. He didn't say that his words was going to be placed together. And especially when you're dealing with mankind who have the right and the authority to be able to manipulate it as they will. That's a price that has to be paid within, within soul, the soul in judgment. So that's a whole different ball game. So I'm not trying to manipulate or play with anything. You know what I'm saying? At all. But at the end of the day, I am a pondering mind just like the rest of us. And I sit back and think about a lot of shit too. And so, I want to share my thoughts in a way of the way my mind tick and work. And so I would like for you guys to chill with me for a second. And if you have opinions, this is an opinionated situation. So the opinions do matter. It doesn't mean someone is right or someone is wrong. It just means that this is a great debate and it's worth debating and speaking about. And when it comes down to the Bible, it's been so much mishap and confusion already, which is very obvious. Everyone already knows that. So it's okay to be able to try to inspect and, get a little closer within the veil of this shit, right? So now, in the Bible, it speaks about Jesus being born, and then it skips some shit, and this motherfucker turned 12. Excuse my French, but like I say, I'm really not I'm trying to speak it in let me just try to do this without trying to curse. Sorry, saying cuss words are powwows. But anyway, all of us, a time disappeared where he was, then all of a sudden he's 12 in the temple. He done left home, but, and so it's a confusion, like what happened and why they don't speak about this in between, right? God has sent me to certain books, and years ago, he helped me build a collection. God helped me build a collection of books, that really took me to a whole nother place with myself, and discovering the truth behind certain things. And it's not about just the things that's being written. It's sometimes when you're seeking for the right shit, God will show you what you need to see. And, even if it take 1,000,000 books to be able to get one paragraph of a pure understanding of what the message is, that's how God works. So stuff is scattered like that because sometimes it's not meant for the right eyes, the wrong eyes, excuse me. So in this case right here, you got you got all these situations about Jesus and how he was born and portrayed and everything in these stories. And it's like they scatter them out of the Bible, but for why? You know, why would they take, you know, these particular stories? And then if you look around, you got all these people that's based that has all these situations as adults that live these lives, and it draws back to their childhood issues, you know. So I would like to speak about some of those childhood issues, you know, that, you know, I was being pointed and directed to when it comes down to, you know, the Messiah, Jesus, and the lives that people don't really talk about, that's so scattered, you know. So I'm gonna speak about this stuff in an Ebonic way, because it's like me putting a couple of Gnostics and stories together that God has shown me over years, you know. This is not something new to me to speak. If you know me well, you've already probably heard something like this coming out of my mouth anyway. But I'm being pulled to share this with the community that, you know, watches my videos and are interested in getting a deeper look into certain things that they may not be aware of. So, you know, there's a story of, we're going to start back with Mary. We're going to start back with Mary, the mother of Jesus, you know, Mother Mary. You know, there's a story of Mother Mary being a child around 14 years old, and, you know, pretty much being very in tune with nature, almost like some Snow White stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, she saw the birds and the animals and all of that stuff. She had a relationship with these things, and she was different from other girls her age back then, so they say. Now, like I said, I'm speaking this in my terms, so don't take it too personal, but just check the story, you feel me? So back then, they say that the males, you know, the older males, kind of like some Color Purple shit, you know, would get these young women and marry them, you know, and house them and mold them into women and wives and blase, blase. So, you know, that way. As you can see, that kind of tensed me up a little bit. Anyway, let's keep going. So basically, I believe that his name was Joseph. I'm not sure. You know, I could be wrong, so, you know, don't hold me to that. But he wanted a wife, and so he went to go get her. He chose her, and she was, I believe, 14 or so odds, and he was an older male. He had already, I want to say he had already had some sons, I want to say, but that's not the part that I'm on, so I'm not really concerned with that part. But it does matter, you know. We gotta, you know, these extra kids do make a difference, right? But just not at this moment. So he goes and he picks his wife, which is Mary, and he leaves and goes to prepare for her coming to his home. While he leaves, an angel or two, you know, in partnership, because it comes in dual energy, spoke to Mary and let it be known to her, and the Holy Spirit will be set upon her, so called, and the Son of God is coming. Now, we don't know how this story really portrays. Like I say, it's a lot of metaphorical things that take place here. We don't know if Mary really, you know, what she really did to get this baby inside of her, you know, at the end of the day, on some keep it real shit, you know. We don't know how that veil, like I say, back then, the veil being lifted back then and coming down, it was, people died at certain ages that is incredibly hard to get to at this day and age. So we don't know how it was going down back then. And the story itself, just pay attention to that part. So basically, it's like, you know, she supposedly turns up pregnant, but not just an average pregnancy, which once again, we don't know. The travel time, I'm pretty sure, was different if people was riding on horses and camels and walking and stuff. You know, you don't know how long it took to get from point A to point B, from town to town and stuff like that. But apparently when he returned, she was 6 months pregnant. But you know, I'm trying to make that look more realistic, because apparently in the way the book made it seem was that when she became pregnant, it was no ordinary pregnancy, and she was automatically 6 months pregnant. She skipped all the way to pretty much the middle of the second trimester, you know, almost to the third trimester here. And so, you know, that was a big change, supposedly, the way this book made it seem. But, you know, just the reality of it all, we don't know the traveling stages between when he left and came back to get her, you know, how long that really took. So, you know, basically, when he got back, he found news of her being pregnant, and to him it was disrespectful, you know. And how can I bring this girl back to my community as my wife, and she's already with child, and I know for a fact it's not mine. Now let's get real here. Now we getting on some 2020 21 shit, you know. I know for a fact it's not my baby. So I'm not finna bring this woman home to marry her and be my wife. She's a disgrace. But, you know, apparently the Holy Spirit came to him and told him how the baby got there, which we don't really know, because at the end of the day, we don't know what really happened with Mary in this magical pregnancy. She could have been raped. She could have, you know, been molested. Anything could have happened. You know, they don't speak of the miracle, because sometimes it goes back to like the Knight of Swords energy. Sometimes shit happen in a chaotic way, but it can be for good reason. It end up being a miracle in the making, and you don't even realize it. That's why I do have a personal opinion about people, you know, getting raped and aborting babies and stuff like that, because sometimes, you know, God, you just don't, you know, you have to go through sometimes a traumatic thing to be able to raise a king or a prince or a queen, you know. You got to get in a certain state of mind for that shit. Not average type stuff, you know. So it's something about that part in my book that I think should be paid a little closer attention to, because, you know, a curse and a blessing, it can't come in one format. But pretty much, you know, these two dual spirits in angelic mode comes to him and let him know in dream state that it's okay to wife her. She's 1052, if you know what that means. If you don't, look it up. So those numbers could be significant as well. Anyway, so he decides to take her back home. You know what I mean? He takes her back. So this is the story when it comes down to Mary. Now then the story changes. Now it's Mary pregnant. Mary is very blissful while she's pregnant. She's healing people while she's pregnant. You know, that's why I believe the Catholic Church, I'm not sure. this is just my opinion, so I apologize. I'm not trying to rub nothing. But that is why I believe the Catholic Church puts Mary on a pedestal, because she's just as much as a healer as Jesus considered to be, the mother. She's the womb. Her womb had to have been something spectacular to go through these motions, right? Whether it went through a traumatic phase or not. She was put on a pedestal for birthing this child, and she had healing aspects too, and ways about herself as well, right? So she, that definitely can't get overlooked. She's the mother of it all, so to say, with this energy. So, then she had baby Jesus. Talladega Nights. Sorry. Then she had baby Jesus. And when she had baby Jesus, people now, even they come up to her and just touch the baby's blanket, and it's healing work. It's just magical all over the place, right? Now, then, Jesus still got to go through his growing stages too. So now there's another book here, It tells you about the infancy of Jesus as a baby, and his childhood, and then Jesus grew up with This is my story about this situation. I'm just telling it my way, but this is if you've read any of these stories and familiar, you know what I'm talking about. Because at the end of the day, I'm reciting, but I'm just doing it in my own way. But, because I got to bring this story to life, man. For real. But, Jesus was a powerful person, so to say, as a baby and everything. And with him having that much power and not knowing what to do with it, he was also kind of, in his south node energy, being a trine, being a very, you got to study this shit if you haven't, being a trine, a messiah, a king from the stars, astrological king, and, as a prophet, which is many of them. This is just one particular one, not trying to downplay at all, but definitely keeping it real. As a trine, if you're born with certain skills and talents, and you're not taught how to use them properly, natural gifts that are given to you from the universe, from God himself, and being in this world, we're kind of put in a direction to where we have to go through certain struggles and deal with those energies. And it's battles you have to fight with yourself and everything, because you're a different type of breed here. And so it's like being baby Jesus as a teenager and youngster. Let's start at around 5-6 years old. This one story that was in his book as a child, speaking about him being on the roof of a house with one of his friends playing, doing something, sitting on the roof. And how they spoke about how Jesus, his parents, they moved a lot. They moved a lot because he, everywhere Jesus went, somebody died. Everywhere he went, everywhere they moved, every town they lived in, it became a problem, because somebody would get hurt or pass away, just stuff like that. Jesus had a little attitude problem. But he was in his South Node energy and wasn't, being taught how to handle those issues. But see, why did he have an attitude problem? It's not just about that trying energy. Once again, we got to keep it real here. He was still, let's talk about it. Basically, Jesus was on the house with his friend, and this was around 6 years old, maybe. And his friend was doing too fucking much. Needed to sit his butt down. Jesus told him, sit down. He didn't want to listen. He fell off the house. He died. So here come everybody accusing Jesus of pushing him off the roof. So, this is so-called the first time that Jesus rose someone from the dead. Because he rose his friend back up from the dead, supposedly to make, be a witness, be honest. What happened? Tell the truth, because they over thinking I did this shit. So tell them what really happened. So he done rose him. He done rose his friend back up from the dead, so he could tell the truth, tell the people the truth that he was playing and he failed. Jesus didn't do it. Now, it was another part in that book where it said that Jesus got mad and touched a man's hand, and it made his hand wither up and get old. It said this man was not an old man, but he was it was still an adult. But when Jesus touched him, whatever he did pissed him off. He didn't touch this man's hand. I think it had something to do with him making birds on the Sabbath. I don't know. I don't want to get the stories mixed up, so I'm not gonna really go there. But I do know that they say that he, the hand drew up like a motherfucking, withered on, about to wither on off, and the man, Jesus walked off and went home. The man came and knocked at the door and asked him, can you tell your son to fix me? Jesus didn't want to do it, but he did it. It was another part where, they say Jesus was walking through a crowd. This is maybe, young teenager. So this had to be right before he turned 12, because for some reason they only speak about his life in the Bible after 12. So these are the in-between moments. They say that he, was walking through a crowd and somebody bumped into him rather harsh. And he didn't like that shit. Turned back and looked at him and said, you die, or some touched him and told him, and he fell dead because, it was rude and disrespectful. So, he everything was a cause and an effect dealing with Jesus, because he had his ways that was a little menace-like, but if you really think about it, that people was fucking with him first, and it was his reaction to the stuff. So it's a cause and an effect. So now let's get into this childhood issue shit. So we got a father here that is not Jesus's real dad. Don't really know if what he done heard or seen in his dream or whatever is realistic, or what if he should believe whatever story he was told about this woman and this pregnancy. He done took on this baby. You got fathers to this day in this world that love the hell out of their stepchildren, and they'll give them the world, and they treat them like they own, and that's what's up. That's a one of a kind type father to me. Then you got the fathers in this world that hate their stepchildren, that don't know how to treat their stepchildren. Then you got the ones who talk like they are good stepfathers, or they would be good stepfathers, but it's this energy that they carry that they try to fight against, that at the end of the day, this is not their child, and they can't grasp, hold to that, to that connection. And so when that child does something wrong, it's easier for their parent to take it out on that child than they would their own blood child type shit. This is blended family energy, and at the end of the day, Jesus was born into a blended family. And this part gets not really, I don't go to church, so I can't really say it doesn't get talked about in church, but the sermons that I've listened to, I haven't heard no one speak on it. So, and I'm not trying to raise it as a sermon either, but I'm just saying, But, Jesus also was a carpenter, right? Wasn't his father a carpenter too, a stepfather? It's like, what was his brothers? Was they all carpenters? I'm not really sure. But what I can say is that Jesus was different from the rest of them. And they all knew that. And the father did not hatch that egg. You feel me? And that is some envy. As a child that turns into an adult, into this reality, that's speaking this shit to you now, I know that energy of being a different person in a household full of everybody that's not, but you don't even know. You don't even know that this ain't your real bloodline. You just, and see, Jesus had it different than me, because his mother was in the household. My mom wasn't, so I was trapped in that. I was shit. So I get it, I get it. So it's kind of like, when you look at this, it's like when they say that Jesus ran off or disappeared within the crowd during some type of festival or something that was happening when he was 12. This goes back to the Bible. This is, now we jumping back that way. Because, see, in all these other stories, it speaks about Jesus going through these issues, and that's probably why they didn't put it in the Bible. Because it let it be known that he had an attitude. He had a human side to him. It wasn't all about the spirituality of nature. It was about human nature and being able to cope as a human being in, trying to deal with a spiritual path in a human place, without any direction. Because, and it's like this is what Jesus, if you think about it, man, like, he wandered off for a reason. You supposed to be you the closest to your father. This is your stepfather. You like father, like son, right? That's how that shit's supposed to go, right? But they found him in the temple. And then he disappeared for a minute. He wasn't just gone for a day. Dude was gone for some days. So he sounded like he ran away to me. Sound like he ran away. And not just disappeared or got lost. He was of an age to where, he could ask questions, especially if he was as intelligent as he was. And they couldn't find you? And how is it that they didn't know for them to be not trying to be funny, but Mary, this is the mother, but she's also submitted to her husband at this time. You got to look at these things, and this is real shit. This is real family life. This shit happening right now. She's submitted to her husband. Doesn't matter how holy her womb is or where her place was with God. She married this man. And so she has submitted herself to this husband. So how is it that, because, if she was by herself and she wasn't with the husband, back in the days, they had to be that way. That's the life. But, she probably would have found her baby. It probably wouldn't have never ran away to begin with. Because he was supposed to be closer to the stepfather, but for some reason he ran away, or he disappeared for a few days before they found him in the temple, in the holy temple, in the father's house, where she said, my father's house. He went and found God because of how much he went through in this other house. So when all else fails, what do? You go to God, right? That's how we do. We fall back into the fetal position. So they come in and find him sitting around other scholars, teaching them with amazement. Now he done got anointed in his father's house. The trauma that he done went through. And then they say, why did you do this? You woman. Don't you know I'm with my father? Huh. So, this, we are supposed to always put God before any father on this planet. That's facts. But as a child, we're taught to do that, right? We're supposed to be. Now, or we can also be pushed to it, like crucified. Crucifixion, bearing the cross. I feel like that happened way before Jesus turned 30. I think that cross was being buried. He was burying the cross before he turned 12. Shit. That's just my opinion to that. But, I was pulled to speak about this because it's like we deal with these childhood issues without realizing it in so many ways that can sometimes, be not good for us. And we look for direction on how to do certain and then now you have to sit down with counselors and therapists and stuff, and people are jail to think about these things, when if this book was so credited the way that it's supposed to be. Because once again, I'm not just trying to discredit anything, but it is a reason why things are removed. So and I've spoke this in another message, that the devil's book is big, it's huge. And so why is God's book so scattered, to the point to where they want to mislead you? Why is it that the things that we feel and go through, we can see that shit on movies and in TV shows? Why they want, even with the Simpsons, not trying to be funny, but common sense to tell anybody that shit ain't just no predictions, and that shit is ran behind some type of corporate that's making sure that you get the messages in a preparational way without preparing for it, looking at it more in an entertainment aspect, and instead of trying to do something about it, more so just sit up and talk and be amused and amazed by it. And so it's still a jack-in-the-box bullshit situation, and it's ran well, because people are putting out videos about it all the time, and I watch them. But so thank you. but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, if you ain't figured out by now that shit ain't just no ironic predictions, that this is somebody that actually is aware of what the fuck is really going on, and they have to, universal law said so, they have to feed you the information, but they don't have to tell you how they feed it to you. It's up to you to figure that part out, because that's the whole part of manipulating you and keeping you confused and in the dark. So, yeah. But with that being said, I think that's about it. I just wanted to kind of speak about those energies, because, being able to recognize that, it's a reason why certain stuff is dismembered and removed and replaced and exchanged, distorted. And, when you really want to know, and especially for the right reasons, we are vehicles, spirits driving vehicles around this motherfucker. And sometimes you put the wrong gas in the vehicle. Sometimes you don't get the tune-ups and the, stuff that you don't, that you're supposed to get done to make sure your shit is up to maintenance. And so sometimes that'll cause the vehicle to run a little wrong and be read a little wrong. But it doesn't mean that the spirit is. It's still a person behind the vehicle, and that person behind the vehicle can get irritated at the vehicle and react, or they can do something to fix the vehicle and drive better. And with us being souls walking around, in these vehicles, just imagine being a fish with all this energy. It can't do nothing but flap around. Real talk. Because the soul, that's still a soul in the vehicle. However you want to look at the vehicle, doesn't matter. They got a lot of different types of cars and trucks around this motherfucker. Big, little, small, motorcycles, it all. It's all here. So, you gotta be able to make sure that you really pay attention to things beneath the veil. The ascensions are real. The ascensions are real too. Do you believe that Jesus died on the cross? If you do, I was about to say, get off my channel. But I can't talk like that. But as you can see, I purely do not believe that Jesus died on the cross. I do believe that he ascended. I do believe that Jesus ascended. You know, and I do believe that there's just like you know, ascensions, there's descensions as well, and just like a spaceship ascends and descends, just like, you know, fallen angels or have all this you know, intelligence, that but they're fallen. If they're fallen, they're falling from grace. What make you think that they could beam a light like that? But their intelligence could. Their intelligence could do a lot of things, especially if they couldn't get, if you got fallen angels that's trying to destroy some shit on this earth, because it's earthly angels here that's fallen, that's ruling some shit. You got to watch the movie Gabriel to get where I'm going with that. But, you know, just you take the movie as a slight sentence more than a whole story, you know. But like there are if they capable, if they don't fail from grace, what make you think they want us to rise into grace? No, they want us to blow the fuck up. And that's the aim. Just like they've destroyed all the other planets already. You know, they've already been on. They done called hell's fire already. Take it how you choose. I don't care if you believe me or not. You know how I feel about that. And they working on this one. And the movie Dominion also will be helpful to some, because every time, once again, I'm gonna say this shit, every time while they grave digging our tombs and stuff like that up, every time they find something, someone emerges. And it's up to you what you do when you emerge. You know, what type of hand do you put and play into this situation, because you're stepping onto the chessboard when you emerge. And if you're being embodied, if you're being resurrected, if you're being reborn into this system, then you gotta come in and be ready. Once you come out of that transformation, that cocoon, you definitely can't just sit there like a normal butterfly would. My daughter explained to me about how if a butterfly came out of the cocoon, they have to land somewhere first so they can get their wings ready to fly. They can't just start flying. And so, you know, when you in a position to where you come out of a cocoon and you're where you could possibly land on a group of thorns or knives or sticks or stones, you know, that can hurt. You got to be careful on your surroundings and watchful. Delicate. Anyway, I'm going to get up out of here, and I hope that you guys actually chill with me all through that, because, yeah. Anyway, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll holler at you guys later, all right?